let's talk about the second element of the loop, and it is impressions. And it is arguably the most difficult element of the loop to control, alongside probably with an algorithm, but we're going to talk about this in this lecture just in a few minutes. So what are impressions? So by this moment, you probably already know what is impressions, but the impressions are actually when someone sees your video on their feed, timeline, or just on YouTube. So these are impressions. Let's just go through the impressions and its role in a growth cycle. And yeah, let's discuss it in a deeper way. So as I said, impressions are first audience interaction with your video. I probably should have added with your video. It's the first time when our potential viewer will actually see the video. There are a lot of impressions that can be get with your video, but impressions will transform into views when person actually will like the impression and go and click the video itself. And it is very difficult to control, but it is the first in audience interaction with your video. And title and thumbnail are only things that are visible for impressions, nothing else. So you don't see the video. Maybe you have a video preview playing because in the later situations of the YouTube you have video preview playing. But yeah, in the majority of the cases, these are the only two things that people can see in their impressions. There is nothing else individual can see there. And all impressions have their source. So you need to learn about the impression sources as well. Where are you getting those impressions from? Is it from search? Is it from suggested? Is it from recommended? You probably already know what these are. If you don't, well, you will probably. And you need to pay very close attention where these sources are and where those impressions are coming from. Because depending on the timing, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, depending on the timing, different impressions can come from different sources. For example, at one moment, your search may skyrocket because people are actually looking for it. And for that reason, this growth cycle, the loop or algorithm, however you want to call it, will show your video more and you'll get more impressions. And for that reason, if your CTR will be good, CTR meaning click-through rate, meaning that ratio between how many impressions are seeing and how many impressions are transformed into views, if your CTR is high enough, you are going to get more views as well. And depending on how people's interests change in time, you might get your video impressions in recommended, higher number in recommended, because people have changing interests. And depending on what other videos people are watching, your views, your impressions might come from the suggested as well. So it constantly changes and constantly in flux depending on the viewer behavior as a whole on an entire YouTube. And before that, we're going to talk about this, that you don't have direct control over it. This is probably the least controllable feature in the loop, alongside an learning algorithm as well. You cannot control it. This is basically like a force of nature where you need to learn to avoid it or use it, or however you want to use it for your own benefit. This is extremely important that you don't have a direct control over it, and people are just, oh, how can I get more impressions? How can I get impressions? In order to get more impressions, you need to get, first, more videos, and you need to get more interactions with your videos. It's very counterproductive, right? In order to get more impressions, you need to get more impressions. So it's very difficult to control because it's a very self-fulfilling loop with an impressions, and it's very difficult to control, and you need to forget about trying to control it. Just make videos and make them good and focus on other parts, and impressions will grow as well, because impressions are closely tied to the every other part of the loop and feeds from every other part of the loop. Impressions are probably the only elements that, not only element, but the most hungry element that feeds from everything else, because more views you get, more impressions you'll get. More watch time you get from your views, more impressions you'll get. More subscribers you get, more impressions you'll get. more videos you'll do, more impressions you'll get. More impressions you'll get, more impressions you'll get. So that's how weird impressions are acting. And despite that, subscribers and algorithm are the main feeders of impressions as well, like for the videos, because impressions are and videos are probably very closely tied to each other, and they are practically the same, like different sides of the same coin. It's very difficult to explain, but let's think of them as separate things, but very closely related things. I mean, the impressions and videos. And subscribers and algorithms are main feeders, because your subscribers will be the first people who will see your video, meaning that they will be the first to get impressions from your videos. And for that reason, they will be your main feeders for impressions. And algorithm is the second one, because when people are searching for it, the algorithm decides what impression to show higher or lower, and this as well for the recommended, depending on how people's behavior will change. The algorithm is learning from the other people, and when behavior will change, algorithm will decide to show your video in impressions. And for the same reason, for the suggested, when people are watching a different type of videos, algorithm will have to decide whether that other video is similar to yours and show your video as well and suggested, etc., etc. And timing is another factor as well, because timing is not a part of the loop. Still, timing is the deciding factor, because the timing is the deciding factor for all elements of the loop. And for that reason, again, it's closely tied to the algorithm, because viewers' interests change with time. People will search different things in time, and people will watch different videos in time. And for that reason, timing is important as well. Just take a look at where the impressions are in the growth cycle. It's right here. And again, it feeds from every single element, and every single element feed into impressions. That's why it's in the middle. It's practically have connection. Every single one of them has the connections with every other part. Of course, maybe views has different connection to the videos, but still, it's like circle. Yeah, it's drawn pretty bad, like I did in PowerPoint. But you can see that it goes like this, then comes back, then comes back, then comes back, and just goes like this infinitely. And impressions is in the middle of this. You want to get more impressions. And weirdly enough, this is the only thing alongside with an algorithm that you cannot directly control. Just pay close attention and watch how your impressions will grow. And it will grow in time, of course, because you're going to get more views, more subscribers, and impressions will increase. And just, I don't know, probably the best thing that you can do in order to increase impressions, make more videos. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about the next element of the growth cycle, which is views. See you there.